The Senzo Meyiwa murder trial back in the High Court in Pretoria today. It's been quite a long adjournment, 3 weeks. This was after the defence said it needed time to consult its clients and experts on the more than 700 photographs that were downloaded from the phone of accused number 3. It's Manqoba. Now, during earlier court proceedings, Constable Sizwe Zungu testified that he saw the accused at a hostel on the night that Meyiwa was shot and killed. Well, unpacking it for us and just reminding us where we are with this court case, eNCA is Manqoba Mchunu joining us this morning. Manqoba, hello again to you. Let's first of all talk about these photos, and then we want to hear, of course, about the witnesses who say that they weren't even in Vosloorus on the night of the murder. But let's start with the photos first. They needed a long time. There's a lot of evidence to go through.
Well, certainly, Gareth, as you can understand, it's over 700 photos that have been downloaded from Manqoba Mchunu's phone. And this was from the request that was made by his lawyers here in court, who had requested the state to furnish them with those photos that had been taken from the phone. It's not the first time that we had heard evidence relating to those photos. You recall that during the testimony of another police officer, Colonel Steyn, he also made mention of some of the photos where he had pointed out that accused number 3, Manqoba, had dreadlocks just a day before Senzo Meyiwa was shot and killed. And of course, during the evidence of Constable Sizwe Zungu, who was a relative to one of the men or the accused, we understand that in fact he had been invited to a gathering that had been taking place at his nephew's place of residence at the hostel, and this is where he then had seen all those 5 accused at the hostel on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was shot and killed. And his testimony was along the lines that they were all there at that particular hostel. There was a gathering where there was meat and alcohol that was being enjoyed by those that were there. He also testified to the effect that just hours later, around about 7 o'clock, this is when 3 of the accused 1, 2 and 3 had then disappeared, and this is when they then come off or come back in a rush, seemingly looking scared when they return to the house. And he also gave testimony to the effect that accused number 1 at the time had been carrying a firearm, a 38 revolver. Accused number 3, Manqoba Mchunu, had been carrying a 9mm, and also to the effect that accused 2, Bongani Ntanzi, had been wearing a hoodie at that particular time. So the defense had then requested the photos that were taken from that particular phone to go through those photos in order to prepare for their cross-examination. And of course, we're expecting them to continue with their cross-examination. It was lawyers for accused number 3, Advocate Charles Nisi, that had made this request to court, but also the lawyer representing accused number 5, that is Advocate Zandile Pshololo, also requesting to be given the master a copy of those photos that relate to accused number 5. So that cross-examination expected to resume this morning. And of course, they will be trying to dispute some of the evidence that was given by Constable Sizwe Zungu, essentially placing all 5 of the accused at that hostel on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. And of course, this is quite crucial because we also heard from court, Gareth, how a phone that was stolen from the house or taken by the intruders was also found at that particular hostel. It was later, seemingly at that hostel, according to the evidence of Colonel Steyn, who says that it pinged at this particular hostel. So we're expecting that cross-examination to continue today with Advocate Nisi, who represents accused number 3, expected to continue with this cross-examination.
Yeah, and as that cross-examination is going to continue, because there's still one other very big sticking point when it comes to this court proceeding, Manqoba, as well, is accused number 1, Musi Sabia, and accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, actually coming out and saying that they weren't even in the correct province on the night of the murder. They weren't anywhere near Vosloorus. In fact, they claim they were actually in KZN on the day that it took place.
Certainly, Gareth, and in fact, this is what we heard from the cross-examination of the first advocate, the defense advocate, that's Sipora Mosipelo, who represents accused 1 and 2, disputing that the two of them were in the province on that particular weekend when Senzo Meyiwa was killed. In fact, what Sipora Mosipelo had said is that accused number 1, Muzi Sibia, claims that he was in KZN at the time and he had left Johannesburg in March of 2013. He had only returned in 2015, and when he returned to Gauteng, he had then gone and stayed with his uncle in Tembisa. And Bongani Ntanzi is saying that he had taken unpaid leave from work on that particular weekend. So he says he was not even anywhere close to Gauteng at that particular time. He says that he only returned to Gauteng on the 31st of October in 2014. So essentially saying that they were nowhere near Vosloorus, nor were they there at that particular gathering, as Constable Sizwe Zungu claims. And I think at one point, Bongani Ntanzi even refuting that he had known Constable Sizwe Zungu. And he says that this was the first time, that he had seen him, in fact, in court. And what then Zungu had said, of course, was to deny that, saying that they knew each other well from home. And he insists that he was with his 5 men on that day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. But of course, we do expect also to hear from the other defense lawyers as far as the versions of the other accused, and what they are saying happened on that particular day, related to the photos, of course, that we've seen and that are going to be part of that cross-examination. So we're expecting those accused as well to also dispute any involvement in the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. You recall that they've always maintained that it was one of the people that was inside the house that shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa, and that they are being wrongly implicated in this particular matter. So we're going to hear exactly what accused number 3, as well as the other accused 4 and 5 say as far as their involvement and them being spotted or being in the area on that night is concerned also.
All right, Manqoba Mchunu, thank you very much indeed. Back to you again later. Once court gets underway, I'm sure we'll go live to proceedings as well. Been a long adjournment, but the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial is going to be continuing from this morning.